So you're not analyzing it, you're not critically thinking through it, and you're just kind of thinking with your right brain. And your frontal lobe virtually is not being used. The other thing that happens in this switch from left to right brain thinking, there's a rush of endorphins that your brain releases into your system. And the endorphins are our body's natural opiates. It hooks up to the same receptor sites on all your cells as opium does, heroin. So that's this feel-good feeling when you're running and jogging and everything. That's why when you sit down to watch TV, it's like, ah, oh, I'm with a good friend here. Again, as powerful as a drug. So this thing here, the box, is basically the opiate of the masses. Is what we've seen. Found a whole article entitled Opiate of the Masses in which it talked about a lot of these things. So I'm going to show you some clips of some commercials where they know this, and they're blatantly just kind of like making fun of the fact that they're hypnotizing you, and they're using swirling colors and things, right? So here's some commercials that, and as when I play this clip, notice the difference in the way you feel. Because right now, it's not really that interesting. I'm just a guy up here blabbing on, right? But the second I hit this thing and the music starts playing, notice the feeling that you feel.
Welcome to subliminal advertising. Don't worry, it will only affect your brain.
In 5 seconds, your eyes widen to capture the rush of color. In 12 seconds, you begin to see detail within the details. In 23 seconds, your brain begins to question what is real. Regza LCD TV in 1080p Full HD from Toshiba. Experience it for yourself, and in 29 seconds or less, you'll see why Regza is the one to watch.
Okay.
A big bacon cheeseburger made fresh.
Right. But a talking gecko. Why?
I'll tell you why. Because people trust advertising icons. Some bloke tells you to go to geico.com and you're like, really? And just who might you be? But a gecko, he can be trusted.
Hey, have you heard about the crazy new way to send a message today? It flashed on a screen too quick to see, but still you get it subliminally.
Subliminal advertising complete.
Notice how they always have like that little ding, you're free to move about the country, these little catchphrases and bings and noises and things that are the same all the time. And the repetition of it is where it's ingrained into your brain, and you buy their products. I mean, the only reason this thing exists is to sell you something. Well, not the only reason, but one of the main reasons. And here's another way that they use emotions that they attach to their products. As you look at this picture, can anybody see anything sexual about this picture? Flowers, bees, birds and the bees. It's more blatant than that. Some people see it. A few people see it. It says sex, you're right. Did everybody see the word sex in this picture? It's right there. And now when I take it away, you're always going to see it. But this is where it always comes apart right here. Start talking about sex. Here's another one. In the 1980s Pepsi can ad where you didn't see it unless the cans were stacked up on top of each other in the thing. Why do they do this? Why do they use sex? Everybody says sex sells. Why do they do this? It's because every one of us equates pleasure with sex. And so if they can attach their product to that emotion, then when you're out there in the real world and you see their product, you go, hey, I really like that product. But you don't really realize that it's more of this subconscious thing that's happening in your brain. and it's you like sex. And that's why you think you like their product. So subliminal advertising, that 1950, I think it was the 56 Chevy commercial, that whole commercial, they flash you one frame of the car throughout the commercial. And that was back when they thought it was, oh, look at this new way to send a message subliminally. And they would flash you these one frames. And remember, you've heard about them doing this in the movie theaters where they would flash you a picture of popcorn or a soda or something and you'd go buy it. Well, they deemed subliminal advertising illegal in the late 70s, but people are still doing it. I mean, there's no way to regulate this, and it's gotten a lot more sophisticated.
Iron Chef is one of the Food Network's biggest hits with its combination of cuisine and competition, but some are wondering if perhaps there was a subliminal ad, a flash of a commercial product seen on the show. Paul Boyd reports.
The Iron Chef is a TV cult classic with hectic, heated, and often messy cook-offs. But now the show's making news for something that boiled over outside the famed kitchen stadium. Eagle-eyed viewer Eli Hodap of Chicago was watching this Iron Chef America episode when he noticed this flash across the screen.
Just for a second, it went red.
Did you see it? When Eli slowed it down frame by frame, it turned out to be this McDonald's logo, sandwiched in the Food Network show. McDonald's is an Iron Chef sponsor, but the Food Network and McDonald's say they weren't trying to broadcast a subliminal message. Ads so short they're only seen by the subconscious.
It's a flash frame that came up at the wrong time, but it's definitely not subliminal advertising.
Yeah. This woman's lying through her teeth. Okay, there's no single frame just happens to fall into the edit bay and, oh, there's a McDonald's ad, and yeah, it's our sponsor, but it didn't really happen. So here's some numbers to just kind of reiterate the fact that this stuff works. Annual TV spending is about $15 billion for advertising, and from that $15 billion, they make about $68 billion in revenue from selling products. Global advertising markets, $471 billion. In the cinema, they're spending about $400 billion on advertising. So I mean, these are huge numbers. They're willing to really put their neck out there because they know that if they put it out there enough, people are just going to be led along. They're just going to buy these things. Fact. Here's some facts. Households with television, 99%. Everybody's got a television. Does anybody here not have a television? Right on. A few people. Okay. The average hours watched, 6 hours, 47 minutes a day. Does that seem a little high? That's actually a little lower than what a lot of them said. A lot of them were saying now it's up to around 8 hours a day is what people are watching in a day. So if some of you aren't watching any television, some other people are really watching a lot because the average is quite high. That works out to about 47 hours a week, 2 solid months a year, and by the time you're 65, you've watched 9 solid years of television. And that's just television. This next clip, and this is where I'm going to turn it over to Scotty, is from the documentary The Corporation, where they talk about little kids and advertising. And it's actually, between the ages of 0 and 2, the studies have shown that it's actually brain damaging to watch television. Wow. And I have a little daughter who's 7.5 months old, and when I walk into Costco, I've become very aware of where the TVs are because it's like a little magnet. She's like, and I turn her around this way and, you know, she just wants to stare at that thing. And yes, it is exciting because it's all these colors and noises, and it's a huge contributing factor to attention deficit disorder. I mean, think about it. A problem to paying attention, because this thing coming at you is so exciting that when you go out into real life and there's a teacher or someone just standing there talking, it's not that exciting.